In February 1942, the last remnants of the Dutch East Indies were falling to the Japanese onslaught. The Dutch commander, Admiral Helfrich, marshaled his naval forces for a final defense of his homeland. He ordered his last ships, the cruisers USS Houston and HMAS Perth, commanded by the celebrated Australian Captain Waller, to force a passage through the Sunda Strait, declaring, "You must continue attacks until the enemy is destroyed." Outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed by an entire Japanese invasion fleet, Waller had one choice: attack. This is the story of the Battle of Sunda Strait and the last stand of Australia's greatest sea captain. Before the Australians and Japanese had started fighting in the Pacific, Captain Hector Waller had earned himself a reputation. Commanding the scrap iron ship HMAS Stuart in the Mediterranean Sea, Waller played a key role in the decisive Battle of Cape Matapan as well as the resupply of besieged troops in Tobruk. Admiral Cunningham, the Commander-in-Chief of the Mediterranean Theatre, described Waller as one of the finest types of Australian naval officers, greatly loved and admired by everyone. During a visit by the Australian Prime Minister Robert Menzies to the Commonwealth Naval Base at Alexandria, Cunningham said, "And now you're going to meet one of the greatest captains who ever sailed the seas. His name is Waller." Such praise was not undeserved. While he had a firm grasp of naval tactics and strategy, Waller was first and foremost a man of the sea. Ship handling was his calling, and he epitomised the Royal Australian Navy: drive it like you stole it. During the campaign in the Mediterranean, Stuart often came under attack by Axis dive bombers. While other captains would hurriedly shout orders to escape and evade, Waller remained cool and collected. He would stand outside on the bridge wing and wait for the enemy aircraft to release their bombs. Then, once he saw the planes pull out of their dives, he would order "hard A port" or "hard A starboard." This was the order for the helmsman to turn the wheel as far as it would go, and Stuart would list heavily to one side as she came around. Evading bombs like this required nerves of steel, which Waller had in abundance. Stuart was never crippled by a bomb, and the crew affectionately nicknamed their captain Hard Over Heck. In August 1941, Stuart and the Scrap Iron Flotilla returned to Australia for some rest and a much-needed refit. Waller was promoted and given command of the larger and more heavily armed cruiser HMAS Perth. Perth was a significant upgrade from Stuart. She had 8 6-inch guns, 8 4-inch guns, and 8 torpedo tubes, as well as a full complement of 622 officers and sailors. Ships like these were sorely needed in the Pacific, where the Imperial Japanese Navy were inflicting defeat after defeat on the Allies. In January 1942, Perth was assigned to Abda Command. This unit was a mixture of American, British, Dutch, and Australian ships under the overall command of Dutch Admiral Doorman. Its headquarters was the island of Java in what was then called the Dutch East Indies. Java had been a Dutch colonial holding for 3 centuries, and the Dutch were committed to defending it, especially since the Netherlands had already been annexed by the Third Reich. Perth reached the Abda fleet, but before she had been there a week, catastrophe struck. Aerial recon alerted Doorman to the presence of a Japanese amphibious invasion fleet en route to Java. In response, he mobilized his entire fleet and steamed north from Surabaya to take the fight to the enemy. The combined striking force comprised 2 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and 9 destroyers. Ahead of them lay 2 Japanese heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 14 destroyers. Bad weather meant neither side could establish air superiority. Unfortunately for the Abda fleet, Japanese gunnery was superior. The battle lasted from midday to late evening, and in that time, Doorman repeatedly attempted to smash through the Japanese line. Each time he was repulsed and more valuable ships were sunk. At 11 PM, he made a final effort. His own flagship, HM NLS De Ruyter, led the charge and was blown to pieces by Japanese torpedoes. Doorman went down with it. Seeing nothing but devastation and certain death ahead of him, Waller took charge. He ordered the other remaining ship, USS Houston, to follow him and set course for Java. Both ships were almost out of ammunition and fuel, but they escaped with only minor damage. The Japanese decisively won the Battle of the Java Sea, but they had not seen the last of HMAS Perth, USS Houston, and Captain Waller. With Dorman dead, Abda command passed to Admiral Helfrich. Born and raised in Java, Helfrich embodied the Dutch colonial spirit. A front-page article from the March 1942 issue of Time magazine describes his character, stating, "To Helfrich, as to all true colonial Dutchmen, these islands were home in a sense that Holland could never be. Java was all the Dutch had left of the Indies." His situation was hopeless. With Dorman dead and most of the Abda fleet lying at the bottom of the Java Sea, Helfrich had nothing left to withstand the Japanese invasion. But he was fighting for his home and the last remnants of an almost conquered empire. Emotion clouded his judgment. On February 28th, Perth and Houston arrived at the Javanese port of Tanjung Priok. The ships were in desperate need of supplies, but the harbour master refused them. Helfrich had ordered all remaining ammunition stocks and fuel supplies be reserved for Dutch ships and only Dutch ships. Even 6-inch and 4-inch shells, which Dutch guns weren't chambered for, were withheld from Perth and Houston. Waller was furious and got stuck into Helfrich. After some persuasion, the harbour master agreed to fill Perth's fuel tanks halfway and Houston's 1/3. This wasn't even enough fuel for the US ship to return home, but it was all the Dutch would give. After refusing them resupply, Helfrich ordered Waller to transit the Sunda Strait to Chilat Jap on Java's south coast. He gave the Aussie captain an aerial intelligence report from 1600 showing no Japanese shipping in the area. But this was a lie. On Helfrich's desk lay an aerial intelligence report from 1700 that clearly showed several Japanese warships making for Sunda Strait. It's unclear whether Helfrich knew he was sending Waller into the jaws of a Japanese fleet or whether he simply forgot to tell him. Whichever the case, Waller's fate was sealed. As darkness closed in on the night of February 28th, Perth and Houston made their way into Sunda Strait. 2 hours behind them was the Dutch destroyer HMNLS Evertsen, but she couldn't make sufficient speed to catch up with the Australian and American cruisers. At 23:06, while crossing Banton Bay, Perth sighted a ship. Waller initially assumed it was an Australian corvette, but when she was challenged, the ship responded by firing a spread of torpedoes. Satisfied with this answer, Waller gave the order for Perth and Houston to open fire. By sheer luck, the entire Japanese 16th Army was loaded in 50 transport ships and entering Banton Bay at exactly the same time. They were escorted by a light carrier, a seaplane carrier, 5 cruisers, 12 destroyers, and several mine layers. Perth had been spotted by Japanese destroyer Harukatse, which reported the contact to the fleet commander, Vice Admiral Kurita. Knowing the vulnerability of the transports, he ordered all his ships to attack. Shells screamed overhead and torpedoes tore cloudy wakes through the water. From the bridge, Waller threw Perth from port to starboard, narrowly avoiding the incoming ordnance. His gun crews rapidly burnt through their entire ammunition stockpile, then switched to firing whatever was left. Perth fired illumination rounds, then smoke shells, then practice rounds, then finally her guns went silent. Putting the engines into overdrive, Waller streaked towards open water. Gunners on Perth's upper decks were firing at the Japanese with leveled anti-aircraft guns and the ship's 50 cal machine guns, but they weren't nearly out of ammo too. A little past midnight, Perth took a torpedo hit on the starboard side. Against all odds, Waller managed to steady her. There were enemy ships in every direction, but he refused to give up. With orders of harder port, harder starboard, hard over heck dodged salvo after salvo. But with each hit, Perth slowed down and was less able to answer her helm. Before long, Perth took another torpedo hit and started going down. Waller gave the order to abandon ship just before a high explosive shell hit the bridge, instantly killing the crew. Ammunition supplies completely expended and taking on water from 4 torpedo hits, Perth sank. Behind her, Houston had been fighting just as hard and was facing the same odds. Flames raged on her deck, but her guns were still firing. With Perth going down, Japanese fire focused on Houston and she was torn apart by torpedoes. Her commander, Captain Rooks, was killed, but not before he managed to land a few devastating salvos. During the battle, the Japanese launched 85 torpedoes, primarily aimed at the lead ship Perth. Hardover Heck had lived up to his name, dodging them with expert ship handling. 1,103 crewmen from Perth and Houston were killed, while 678 were taken as POWs. Together, Waller and Rooks sank 4 transports and damaged a cruiser and 3 destroyers. Brothers in arms, Captain Waller and Captain Rooks had fought to the last shell, torpedo, and bullet against an overwhelming enemy force. For his heroic action, Rooks was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Likewise, Waller was recommended for the Victoria Cross, but he didn't get it. His previous commander, Admiral Cunningham, was dismayed by the death of Australia's best captain. He later said, "Waller will always remain one of the very finest types of Australian naval officer, full of good cheer, undefeated, and always burning to get at the enemy." The Collins-class submarine HMAS Waller was named in his honor. That was the courageous story of Captain Waller of HMAS Perth, Captain Rooks of USS Houston, and a tooth and nail fight to stay afloat in the Sunda Strait. But what do you think? Do you think the battle would have played out differently if Waller and Rooks had been given more shells? Why do you think Helfrich failed to inform Waller about the Japanese fleet? Do you think Waller should have been awarded a Victoria Cross? Let us know all that and more in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new.